Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I am Christine Friend with Irvine Valley College. The California Career Cafe team is excited to bring you this new series of webinars about career action plans. These webinars and the great resources on the cafe are brought to you through SB 70 funding from the California Community College Chancellor's Office. I'll take just a moment to cover some technical details, and then we'll get started. The entire webinar is being recorded and will be available for future viewing on the Career Briefs website. The link will be provided to you at the end of the webinar. I would like to talk about the control panel here. You should have one similar to this on the right side of your computer monitor. If you don't see it, then look for this small group of icons on the top right corner. You can use this double arrow here and double click on it and expand the control panel. If you have any questions or comments, please use the questions area right here. We're going to hold questions for Rita till the end of the presentation, but if you have a technical question, I will respond directly to you as quickly as I can. Now to the webinar. I'd like to introduce Rita Jones. Most of you know Rita and all of the fantastic work she does for the Career Cafe. So without further delay, I'm going to switch things over to Rita. Rita.
All right, I assume you can hear me, everyone.
Yes.
So welcome, as Christine said. Today we're going to talk about the Explore section of the Cafe website. And I'm going to start because I assume most of you were on last week and understand about how I can ask a question and you can raise your hand to respond yes. Just if you could, and Christine will do a quick count for us, is there anyone that is new this week that was not here last week? If you can just raise your hand, and that means yes, you're new this week. Let's give you a second to do that. What do you think, Christine? It looks to me like everyone was here last week, correct?
Well, we have about 5 hands raised.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Well, welcome to those of you that are joining us. I will cover a bit just to make sure we'll go over again about what the CAPs are and where they are and all that sort of thing. But if you really want in depth about the start section, you're going to want to go and look at the archived session of last week's webinar, which I'll show you where that is a little later in this session. So let's talk this Cafe section. Let me get it here. Yes, this Cafe section is the area within the site that I really think you're going to see the most changes this year. This coming year. Susan and I are working with grant-funded programs and the deputy sector navigators to add more of the top industry and regional information to our site. So stay tuned to this area. I think you'll see some fun things coming. Today, as we did last week, I will share with you the CAP, or the Career Action Plan for students, around the Explore section of the Cafe. Again, if you didn't understand, there's going to be four different CAPs by the end of January. This is the second in the series. We'll revisit today, again, that educator's guide and talk about the results that you can achieve by using it. So let's just look quickly at the agenda. You know we have a short time together. It's really only about 45 minutes or so. But we're going to cover these things. Number one, who is the audience here? It's a little different today than what we were talking about last week. We'll discuss what's in the Explore section of the newly revised site and how that's organized. We always like to talk about how you might use the Explore CAP and what the advantage really would be for you in your position at your college. I always like to bring in some best practices and new ideas. And I'd really like to take a moment right now to encourage you to share during this part of the webinar. I've asked Brooke Oliver to speak with us for a few minutes about some of the things she's doing at Sierra College. But it's really, really helpful, and it makes such a neat experience for all of us. If you will speak up and share anything that's worked for you, while using the cafe in this Explore section, or maybe simply something that occurred to you during this webinar that you'd like to try. And again, you'll do that at that point by either posting the question or raising your hand, and Christine will bring you in. And then lastly today, we'll make sure that you know where everything is located and what you can expect for next week. So who is the target for this Explore section? Who are we talking about today? Last week was pretty exclusively around students and creating that career goal. This Explore section is just an excellent area where you can get good information to faculty. And let's talk about why we might want to do that. One obvious answer is that's where the students are. And I can't be the only one that has had the frustration, in fact I'll go back for a minute, that's had the frustration of going to a lot of time and trouble to offer a workshop to students and then just having a handful show up. Of course, you know, we love that individual time with them, but it's really a luxury that we can't afford right now when we have such a huge number of students to serve. So I really have found that faculty, they are the ones that we can go to where the students are, and it's a very successful strategy. It's going to require that you have a relationship built with that faculty member and that they trust you with a bit of their precious time with their students, or even better, I have found, if you can empower them to integrate this information that you're going to share with them, if they can integrate that at strategic times during the semester, it can make a big difference for their students. They're there in the classroom all the time with them. They can help students make these critical decisions. And all of this pathway information is very easy to integrate, and we'll talk about how that looks. So now let's look at how this is organized, how the Explore section is organized. There's a key difference between this section of the cafe and the other three main sections, you know, the Start, the Experience, and the Prepare. As I showed you last week, those sections have 6 student lessons for each one of them, and then short videos or the good to know area where you can go deeper if you want with supplemental information, and always a student activity. The Explore is a little bit differently organized. It's organized around the 15 state-approved pathways, and each one will be organized in this format that I'm going to cover in the next couple slides. At the top of the page, which is where we are right now, will be a short description of the pathway and a video of a community college student that's in that pathway. This is an easy way for a student to read that description and understand a little bit more about what's included there. Now, on the page that we're on for each pathway, at the left-hand side, you will find something called Traits of People in This Industry. And I often tell students that the ones that are confused about pathways or which one they should select, to really look at those traits and make sure they can relate to them if they want to be successful in that cluster area of careers. Now, located right underneath the traits, you will find something called Opportunities for Community College Students in This Pathway. You can see it right here where it's located. You might miss that, but I want to make sure that you don't. Not only is it going to be in the future, this year, something where we're going to house a lot of the regional information and up-to-date information about that pathway, but right now what you'll find there is the brochures that are done by the State Center Consortium, and they're really one of my favorite handouts to give to students, either at a workshop, you give it to faculty that they could get to students. When I go live, I'm going to show you what that looks like because I feel they're really well done. Now, underneath that particular section, you'll also find then the database of the professional associations, and the reason why students might want to consider looking at those professional associations. And again, when I go live, I'm going to talk quite a bit more about that. Now, let's see what's next here. You can also access, this would be where there's going to be a take action or a student activity for each of the pathways. It's going to look pretty much the same on each one. They're going to start with an interest profiler and get results. And then they're going to go in and learn how to look at sample career profiles, which you can see in this area right here. This happens to, whoops, sorry. This happens to be for a video game designer. You know, they'll choose which profile they want to look at. But on the right-hand side here, all of that information is what they have to glean from that particular career profile. So it teaches them to really look at the information, find what they need. And I usually suggest that they do, in fact, at least 3 of these. The CAP will direct them to do at least 3 of these Your Next Move worksheets so that they will have 3 different career profiles that they can compare. Now, next. We talked a lot last week about what you could accomplish by using the CAP with your students. Maybe encouraging your faculty to assign as an extra credit, and you could be responsible really for collecting the data and reporting the student learning outcomes, both to the school, because they're going to have a need for that, and maybe to their dean, which is going to help them look really good. Because of the way it's packaged, it's easy for you to go into a classroom, administer the pretest, explain the project to the students, show them where the CAP link is, and then be able to have the faculty members send them to you for the post-test and to share the results so that you can work with them for their educational plan. More and more our campuses are being mandated and encouraged to collect data around our student learning outcomes. So what I'd like to do is ask Susan, bring her in for a minute because she's the real expert on this. Susan, can you come in and tell us why it's important that the colleges be on board with pathways for students right now?
Thanks, Rita. Yes, first of all, we think it's a real important part of the career development process. But also, coming out, I believe next week, they're planning some webinars around, and it's called the California Career Pathways Trust Fund. And I believe it's either $38 or $45 million that was allocated, and it's all around career pathways and all of the activities, including work-based learning, including like the assessments, the whole career development process. And it's going to be administered out of CDE, California Department of Education, but it's all going to require partnerships with community colleges and other partnerships within your region. And but it's going to be focused on pathways. So more and more we know that we need to get students into these pathways and that process needs to start earlier. So some of these resources you can use with your high school students as well. There's going to be money in there for you to hire counselors, to set up career centers, to work in partnerships with your high schools, again, to come up with a process for getting students into pathways. The other important part of that is going to be following those students. Anytime you do any kind of intervention with a student, I don't care what it is, whether it's a high school student, community, make sure that you get a student name and ID number so that they can follow up later on with that student to see, you know, how successful that intervention was. What happened as a result of that activity that students did with you. So all of the new funding that's coming out is going to be based around pathways, more and more important. So stay tuned, but keep your eyes open for this California Career Pathways Trust, and we will try to let you know through our listserv when that comes out. And you can work in partnership with your high schools and ROPs and other colleges even in your region.
Okay, thank you, Susan. I have a question for you, though, before you go away. If let's say they aren't getting the information via email, who can they talk to on a college campus that should know about, like, this California Career Pathways Trust? Who should they just go and have a conversation with?
Their CTE deans should be getting that information. They also can watch you can also watch the Doing What Matters website, which is coming out from Chancellor Von Tonquin-Levin. because it's all part of her doing what matters. So you can also get that from that website. But on your campus, your VP of Instruction and your CTE deans or workforce development administrators should have access to that information as well. Just let them know you're interested and that you want to know about it when it comes out.
Okay, good. Thank you, Susan. That's perfect. All right. So let's take a look then at what the CAP looks like. Second CAP is done, and I'm going to show you where it's located, and we'll look at some other things around the career briefs while we're there. I'm going to the cacareerbriefs.com website live. You've seen this before. This is the home page where all the QTs are archived. You know, the current one is up here right now on setting course goals. You'll see the 3 areas of the QTs. This area over here actually will probably be devoted to CAPS or the Career Cafe in some way on the right. I'm going to the free resource section. And before I even go into the CAP, I want to make sure about a couple things that you know that they're here. All 4 will be located in this section up here on the top right where my cursor is. That's last week's Get Started. That's the first area, the first CAP we have. Today we're going to take a look at the Explore. By popular demand, I have posted the Educator's Guide, which I'm going to show you more in depth in just a minute. It's not ready, which is why it says draft. It's really only for your use right now. If you're attending the webinar, you know about it. No one else does at this point, but I'll show you in a few minutes that it's there. So if you want to look at some of those pre and post tests or might be very interested in those student learning outcomes, you can go there to find it. Right beneath that is last week's webinar. So again, you know, this week's will be posted underneath that. There's a wealth of information within this free resource section. And you know, when we talked about being able to reach out to faculty and to be able to offer them things, I'm going to suggest later a group of things that you can take to them to show them what's on the cafe. But one of those would be student bookmarks. And I want to make sure that you know that the order form for Career Cafe materials is right here in the free resource section at the bottom. And it's not just the bookmarks you can get. You know, there's several different items there. We're working on some new folders or student folders that are available right now that you can get. There's notepads and pens, that sort of thing. This is really important. Now, know that these are free for you. This is a grant-funded project, so they're paid for by the grant. This is our way of marketing the website to students, so we really want to encourage you to take advantage of that. There will be somewhat of a limit to the supplies that you can order simply because we don't have a limited budget. So I want to suggest, if you haven't seen this Just Ask particular brochure, that's not just for high school. It says high school, but it's also some excellent resources for college. And then past grants, these are some of the booklets that you'll want to take a look at because I think they're really cool. So let's go in and take a look at the new CAP, the one for Explore. And again, thank you for a few of us that helped us with a couple of little typos or things from last week. Anything, remember, these are brand new, so we're certainly not finished with the final edits, but we feel they're in pretty good shape. I won't wait for all the icons to come up. Let's go ahead and go inside. And you won't have the sound that goes with this, so I won't really show this. But obviously this is great. If you haven't seen this particular animation here on what a pathway is, it's a great intro to a workshop. It's excellent to use with high school students who oftentimes don't have a clue about what that means or what kind of experiences they can have because they are in a pathway. It's really a good one, and it's pretty easy and simple to follow. And you'll see this CAP has 4 different steps, and I'll take you to each one of those. Let's go to the next page. The first one that they're going to do is to take the interest profiler. That's part of that My Next Move activity. It takes them directly there, and from the profiler they're going to find out about how much education training they need and which job zone is right for them. So they'll click on the careers that interest them and get a career profile. Second thing they're going to do is to be able to explore the pathways that match from the ONET interest profiler. So they'll click on, let's say it's business and finance. They'll go back to the website and click, or they'll be able to click here actually. They'll click that particular icon, go to that section, that pathway, view the video for that pathway, and each one of those are different, so there is no link right here within the CAP. They have to go actually to the pathway to decide the appropriate video. There's going to be a good to know section to see the traits, and then this review the opportunities. Remember, that's where I told you that brochure is. So that's going to be in step 2. Step 3 is the actual Your Next Move student activity. They have their 3 career profiles. They're going to click on this and be able to fill that out and identify those resources and have some worksheets that they can take to you. Now, we decided to revisit the Thinking Caps tool here. And that's because there could be people, say you're using this with a high school group just to talk about exploring the different pathways. They wouldn't necessarily have gone through the start section. And it's really important to us that they know how to evaluate things and make decisions around what's right for them, at least for that stage of wherever they are. So there's an opportunity here, if you want to, that they can go take a look at the Thinking Caps based on which career profiles that they're dealing with. And then in the end, this is the checklist that's in the Explore section, so they can complete that and be able to have something to take to a counselor to meet. So that's pretty much the CAFE, that's pretty much the CAP, the second CAP. So let's take a look then while we're here, and I know it's going to take me off my PowerPoint slides, but while we're here, let's go ahead and take a look at the Educator's Guide and see what's there for us in the second section. Remember, it's a draft section. Eventually these graphic areas will be filled in, I promise. And for those of you that weren't with us last week, know that this resource guide is for you, the educator. It's going to allow you to be able to collect all the data that you need to use for accountability and completes the student learning outcomes that you can expect if your students go through these CAPs on the Career Cafe. And right here it just mentions the 4 different areas of the cafe: the START, which is finding the career direction; the Explore, the ability to connect to a career goal; how to get real-world experience in the experience section; and then the last section, which is to prepare to land a job. Now today then I'll talk, last week we talked a little bit about the student learning outcomes for the START. Let's look at what they are for the Explore section. As a result of completing the Career Cafe's Explore section, students will be able to understand what career pathways are, learn the value of choosing an appropriate career pathway for their academic and career success, identify which pathways are of interest to them, what are the traits required for people in that industry. They'll be able to identify their Holland code and understand a little bit more about why that's kind of the basic in terms of helping them make career choices. They'll be able to identify the training and education requirements for various careers. And last, and I think very important, is utilize critical thinking, analytical, and decision-making skills by comparing and contrasting careers and making choices based on their self-evaluation and research. These things outlined, again, this is for your use. You can edit this, edit out ones you don't want to do. I mean, this obviously isn't mandated in any way. We just put in what was reflective of the work that they would do within this second or Explore CAP. Don't forget how easy this makes your job when you're going to a high school to be able to talk about how important it might be for the students to complete the CAP before they come to the college for, to work on their ed plan or whatever it is that they're going to do. This, you can just print this out and say, these are the student learning outcomes that you can expect from when a student works on this CAP. It's also one that you can use with your faculty on your college campus, easily to show them what it is that you're going to cover in this particular CAP. Now the last piece really of the CAP, of the Educator's Guide, has to do with the table of contents. Let's talk about the Explore. These are all 4 programmed the same way. There's always going to be a pre-test, always going to be a post-test, and a key. So I'll show you quickly what that looks like. That's all the first one. I'm sorry. I should have done this through my slides. In fact, I think I will. You'll see this a little bit more easily when I go back to my PowerPoint, which I hope I can do here. All right, let's get back there. There we go. All right, let's take a look at the next slide then. We just covered the educator's guide, but here we've done that, and we've done the learning outcomes, and here we are. And now we're caught up. All right, the pretest looks like this, and this is the one that you can offer to faculty to come in and give to the students and collect, because there's a lot of interesting information here that you might want to know about how much a student knows before they even are subjected to this content. And look at question over here on number 8, which pathway will you explore? What's the reason it's of interest to you? Maybe what career decision have you made already? What are career pathways? It's a kind of a fun way to see what kind of knowledge they have before you even begin, and then be able to compare that to this post-test, which I will go instead to the key, which is your really answers to this, and be able to show you the kinds of things. And the grayed out ones are always the pieces that are the individual information for each student. So, fun time for me. Let's move on and take a look at what Brooke's going to share. Brooke is the coordinator of career connections and internships at Sierra College, and she has also been the co-chair with me on the statewide advisory for career development. I consider Brooke one of the most innovative career counselors that I know. So Brooke, what can you tell us about how you use the cafe to connect students to pathways?
Absolutely. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. I can.
Oh, good. It's always
I hope they can, because I can.
into the great netherworld. You know, reaching out to faculty is a key factor, because we just cannot be everywhere, and they do have the most time with the students. So one of the first ways that I do it, or have done it, is by hitting them in as many different ways as possible in terms of reaching out to the faculty. So that would be offering flex sessions that I call connecting your curriculum to careers. And when they come in, I look up their disciplines ahead of time so that we can walk through some of the key resources within California Career Cafe, as well as potentially other resources that we have, Eureka, Voc Bios, and show them actually how they could implement it into their coursework. I also will look to see if there's any QTs that are specific to their discipline, or show them that there's the list of topics and encourage them to incorporate those lessons in. Then we also invite faculty to come and bring their classes into the Career Center, because we joke that we have an invisibility shield around us. Students walk down our hallway time and time again, and then will tell me that they've never ever seen our sign before. So we break through that shield by bringing those classes in, doing a tour, and we always do an assignment that's related to their career, and most often have them going into the Career Cafe, looking at the pathways and completing some of those sections. The old ones used to be the pathway guide, and the new one would be absolutely using this, some of the handouts from this career action plan. The nice thing is that if I have a faculty member who also, it may be a reading class, well, we have a library of books, both hard copy as well as electronic through our library, and maybe they do a book report. Maybe it's a communications class, and they'll actually have to do a brief presentation. So we do our best to connect our career piece back to their curriculum as well. Anyone who comes up with an assignment, we take a copy of it and we keep it in a binder so that it is a brainstorming tool for future faculty who come in and might want to come up with an assignment and they don't have an idea. Our standby is a scavenger hunt, and we actually have students go in and put their hands on or click into all the pieces of our major resources. And getting into Career Cafe, it is having them go in. We love to show the Do What You Love video. and then we sprout off from there, usually trying to have them look into their specific pathway, since that's the class that we're trying to connect to, while always really hoping to let them know, hey, if you're just taking this class and you're not sure, here's all the other pieces that you could use. There are times when I am asked to come in and present in classes, and then I will do the same thing, but I'll actually show through. I might actually go through the career action plan with the students, actually show them the videos, have the handouts there, walk them through it as a workshop depending on the time that we have. And pending staff time, there's always don't cancel that class. And we offer that to our brand new faculty, that if they know they're going to be gone ahead of time, that we will come and take over their class for them as long as they let us do a career-related activity as part of that. Other ways to connect with students through California Career Cafe is we like to take things out to the students because, again, this invisibility shield gets in the way. So we have a set of laptops that we'll set up out in the quad or in the cafeteria, and we'll pose some key questions and then have some prizes, some giveaways that we kind of we managed to come up with one way or another, and have the students come and try and give us answers to questions, or say, that's my exact question, how would I find the answers? Rita, was there anything else? I was trying to remember.
Oh gosh, Brooke. I'm sure knowing you, you could go on for a long time, but that sounds like a lot. How about if someone had a question for you around any of that? You know, how would they be able to reach you, or would you mind if they emailed you?
I don't mind at all. I pretty much never go home. Email is the best, so you can reach me at boliver, all lowercase, at sierracollege.edu. And I'll get back. I'll send any documents I have. I love to share the forms, the handouts, anything that we've developed, and then I'll ask for some stuff back probably as well. They can get a hold of me if you want to call. Right now I am sitting at my desk, which is a little bit of a miracle, and that number is 916-660-7482.
Okay, that's great, Brooke. If you're at all new to the field, you know, I think any of these seasoned professionals are really worth reaching out to because they just have a wealth of things already developed. So thank you, Brooke, for sharing. That's great.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, let's see what our next slide. You know, I'll give you just one quick example of what I found very effective on a college campus, that you can go either directly to a faculty, and I always, you know, suggest you start small and find a friendly face, someone, you know, try it out first on someone you know, but it's really, I think, upon us as career professionals to reach out on our campuses and get to know the faculty and the other professionals, because as Brooke says, there really is some weird invisibility thing about they don't really get what we do or really understand. The other very effective way beyond just the one-to-one faculty, you know, taking someone maybe to coffee that you could do, is to ask the different deans if you could just make a 10-minute presentation or a 15-minute presentation at a division meeting. I had some of my best success by going to all the division meetings and sharing what we had, and boy, it's an immediate way to connect with faculty. But you may say, well, what do I do once I get there? What do I say to them? And these materials really speak for themselves. Just an example of some of the things that I might take with me if I were going to meet with them would be a cafe bookmark, some way for them to be able to remember how to get there. And again, I showed you that order form that was on the career briefs in the free resource section, that you can get your own stash of bookmarks to be able to take to students or to faculty. That career brochure, in just the next slide, I'm going to go live on the cafe, and I'm going to show you where that is, because I think it's a real selling point just on its own for how concise the information is there for different career pathways. Those career profiles, that's part, it's on the ONET, and you can go into whatever that particular faculty is teaching and find something of interest to them, because it's better, obviously it's related to their pathway and what they're interested in, to show them the kinds of information that you can give student on one page there in that career profile, and then what our activity looks like to help them be able to compare and contrast those profiles and gain that information. I think many times, oh, I misspelled link. I think many times they don't really understand either what a student can gain from joining a professional association. And I'm going to show you something fun in just a minute on the cafe that has to do with that. And then, boy, would I didn't have them then, but you guys have them now. I would print out those student learning outcomes. That's a one-page again, and be able to share with them what you would hope to accomplish by either showing them how to take their students there and what they could do. With the CAP, it's so simple. They don't even have to direct them. They just have to give them that link, and then the student goes through it themselves. But it's so either tell them that either they could do this or you're happy to come in and be able to oversee this, or have it a special option for the students, extra credit, that they can go and report to you in the Career Center and take the pre and post and have you kind of oversee it for them if that's something that you're interested in. Now, I've already taken you to the brief, so I'm not going to go there right now. Instead, let's go to the cafe, because last week we ran a little short of time and I didn't really have time to go over what I consider just some of the basics in the changes that have taken place since November 1st around the revisions. I think all of you understand by now that it's really organized in 4 distinct sections. That would be START, Explore Pathways, the Experience section, and Prepare. Also, if they want to be able to access that statewide database for jobs, that's underneath the Apply or the Jobs section. But let's take a look along all, you can access all 4 sections here. That happens to be the START that's on the home screen. But you may not have noticed these 3 special areas. There's one for veterans, one for entrepreneurs, and one for associations. And let's take a look at the association one today, and remember it's going to pretty much be the same for entrepreneurs and veterans. You're going to have, you know, the basic explanation and a video at the top to tell you about what they are or what matters in that area. But also there's going to be 3 then new lessons. And I'm just today for fun going to go into this pitch section. Remember, I'm in the associations lesson, and I'm going to go into pitch. And maybe by next week we'll have figured out how to be able to show the videos so that the audio works in this webinar, but right now we're not able to watch that, not that I really have time anyway. But I wanted to make sure that you knew what was in here, because one of the things I know about students, and I know that you know this about them too, is they have a really hard time talking about themselves. They first of all don't really know what to say or really why it's so important. Now, this activity here will help them actually have to write a pitch or a script. But before I would even assign that to a student, and it's pretty you know, self-explanatory there, but this is a great little one right here on the elevator pitch and how to impress employers in 5 easy steps. I like it because it's infographics. It talks about at the career fair only 15% of employers thought that anyone had an effective pitch. But the steps are so easy. It's follow these 5 steps, and they go through, you know, how to introduce yourself, what makes you unique, what is the goal that you have in talking to me, what do you know about the company? You know, have you done any research? And then provide the employer with your resume and ask for a card and then send a follow-up note. So it's very well done, very simple, and I think it's worthwhile. The other one that I would probably share with faculty, and it's a great one, it's 5 reasons that college students should be in professional associations, because most people think, well, they're not ready. That's really for professionals in the field. But this one, and I won't obviously go through this in depth, but I really believe in that first one. It says it's perfectly normal and acceptable for students to change their majors at least a couple times. We know it probably happens more often than that. but many times they can attend a professional association meeting and see what the people are like. Somehow it says if they get outside of the campus bubble and see how that career really looks in the real world, it's going to give them some insight that they didn't have before, guaranteed. And they're talking about how they can add to their education, because many times there's roundtable discussions or guest speaker presentations, of course. The experience of city for our students isn't quite as important because, you know, most of them are local to their college. But building a portfolio, it says tons of things you can do to get involved with an association and grow their experience. But the last one we all know is just like number one. It's the ability to network. And that's giving them a practice session before like a job interview or before a time when it's really, you know, matters and their life is on the line. This is a chance to learn how to talk and how to have a pitch and how to present themselves. So I think those are both really nice links. And this is, I talked last week about how our lessons are really a workshop in a box as far as I'm concerned. You can start a workshop by showing the video, you know, going into these sidebars under the good to know, having the students do with you that student activity that's over here on the right, you know, have that printed out. So they're a great opportunity for you to have all that material there already. But if you are meeting with faculty, as I mentioned, I think it's important for them to know about the database that's here. I'm going to go down. Here's the Professional Association database by pathway. Let's just take a look at, say, health science. And again, here are all of the particular professional associations, and there happens to be 15 pages of them in the health section that a student can access, but I feel they need to have some idea about why they should do that. These both are really good about how to impress and be memorable, and I think it suggests about, you know, creating a business card. And then Guy Kawasaki is always fun to listen to about how do you come across as professional and how do you express your thanks and appreciate what people have done for you. But this is a real easy description of exactly what professional associations can do for you: build networks, set up interviews, connect with mentors, etc. So let's go back to the home page again for just a minute, because I'm almost out of time, and to make sure that you realize that we do have the top 10 list of people skills and some success skills on this side. So that's pretty much the new website. Let's go back and see. Good, I'm at the question part. So I hope to have more time, maybe just at least one or two questions. Do we have anyone that either would like to share something that they've done that's really been effective on their campus? We love to hear, you know, your best practices, or some thought that occurred to you about what you'd like to try, or maybe just a question that you have. Anything at all. We have some time. I'd love to hear them.
No questions so far, Rita.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, then you see my email address here. Susan and I are always available to help you answer your questions. Next week, we're going to talk about the experience section, which is really one of my favorites. And we have some good things there to share with you, and the new cap will be up after that.
We have
So
a couple of things. We have a couple of things. Janine said she used the original cap at freshman orientation and it worked great.
Oh, cool.
And also there's a question, is there a general outline listing all of the steps for this whole entire package? That's from Cynthia.
Okay, for the entire package steps. No, each cap stands on its own, and there's usually just 3 to 4 steps. We tried to keep it, you know, simple. There's nothing that's listed separately except in the educator's guide. You know, you can get a pretty good feel for what's included there.
Okay, and Brooke
said, I hope I answered that question.
And Brooke said the interest profiler seems to be perhaps in the wrong place. Shouldn't it be at the start section? She said it's at the beginning of the pathway section.
Yes, that's because there's other assessments in the first CAP, in the first section, but we have to remember that not every student goes through the whole sequence of START, Explore, Experience. I wish they did, but they don't. And this has to be able to stand alone, so we wanted them to have some sort of an assessment to be able to help them figure out which pathway would be appropriate for them.
Okay, and one last comment. Is there a general outline listing all of the steps for this entire package?
Now that, I think, is that the same question that was asked before?
It's a different person asking the question.
Okay. I'm hoping I understand. The only thing that I can think of that they might mean there is that for the CAPs, what's included. And as I say, it's on that first page. It really outlines the 3 or 4 steps for each of those. So I hope you can email me if you have a more direct question about that, and I'd be happy to try and answer it. So I'll turn it back over to Christine.
Okay, well, thank you, Rita, so much. That was amazing information, great presentation, lots of good stuff. And before we go, I just want to say, don't forget our great resources, of course, the Career Cafe website and the Career Briefs website. Also, a link for the LinkedIn group, California Career Cafe Career Professionals, will be sent to you. And I just really want to thank everyone again for logging in or calling in and being a part of the webinar. And don't forget Rita's other 2 webinars coming up on January 24th and January 31st. So have a great day, everyone, and I'm going to sign off. Goodbye.